welcome to Something to Talk About. It is February and it's Black History Month. It's an occasion that is celebrated all over America. And with the movement Black Lives Matter, we have to wonder how that touches Guam. My guest today will draw that exact relationship, Black Lives Matter, and what it's like to live in our culture and how we are going to celebrate Black History Month here on Guam. That's ahead on Something to Talk About. Venue that we're going to be switching off between our regular home at King's Restaurant in Tamuning and Ruby Tuesday here in Tamuning as well. We've got the corner table and we've got they really fancied it up for us. We've got smothered fries that we've got on our plates. Don't be afraid to eat now.
Okay.
And then we've got a chicken with portobello mushroom, which is to die for. And then those guys already took off with a tinactac, but it's here on my plate. They're doing a beef tinactac as well here. My friend here is Carla Smith. We identified her as a historian, but she's really quite a bit more than that. She has recently received her master's degree from the University of Guam, and her thesis was on the relationship with the Black community on Guam with other communities that live amongst us, with our island neighbors, and including with Chamorro, the interaction, and sort of, was it research to identify the relationships? Were you in pursuit of identifying, the relationships, or what was in your mind when you thought, I need to do a study on this?
Well, a lot of things. One of the things was I wanted to examine the perspectives Chamorros and Blacks had towards one another. That was one thing. I wanted to document some of the things that African Americans contribute here to the island. I wanted people of mixed heritage, Black and Pacific Islander or Asian or otherwise, to know part of their Black heritage and to embrace that, because a lot of my fellow students at UOG were of mixed heritage, and they had either questions or issues about being part Black, and I wanted to write this as an affirmation to them that being Black is a beautiful thing, and that they should embrace it, and they should want to know more about that part of their heritage. You,
in a recent interview that we had, you told me with Guam's population, 1% is African American on Guam, and I was trying to ask you a little bit about the history, and you drew the relationship back to being in the military. Was that sort of the genesis of a Black population on Guam?
Well, Blacks have been here. Maybe not African Americans have been a part of Guam, or part of the history of the Marianas, dating back to like the 16 and 1700s. There's a book about a priest who recorded Black slaves being on the island of Rota. So we know that we've been here in the area for a very long time. And there are also Blacks who came into the Marianas area as slaves. And
during that time of the trade,
yes.
yeah.
And
this was one of the lanes that they came through.
Right, and as freed people too. Like there was a ship captain by the name of William Shorey. He was a free Black, and he traveled the Pacific waters. We know that he went to Australia and to islands nearby.
Sure.
So we've been here, but it's just not been very well known.
It really hasn't been examined that closely.
Right.
And that's why I really thought that this was such an interesting topic. It was actually Roy Burke at your commencement exercises at the university who told me about your thesis, and I went, whoa, I've never heard anybody really try to, research that part of our own Guam history, and then single out a group of people who have been here for a very long time, made Guam their homes, have children here, raise them, and will continue to live here until their dying days. But I always sourced it back to the military. I hadn't. Of course, there had to have been, more of an introduction in the early days during the slave trade. But then in our more raw modern history, post World War II, because this is the area that you're talking about,
Right.
post World War II.
Most of us are affiliated, with, at least in my research, are affiliated with the military, Department of Defense in some way.
Okay.
That have come here,
Yeah.
yes.
And so we were talking a bit about the attitudes that we have about each other. And it's the interesting point that you had brought up during our last conversation was that the reality that we have a very vibrant and large community of half Black, half Chamorro children on Guam. And the attitude toward each other's culture. These are kids who grew up knowing one side or the other, or not necessarily. There are cases where they don't necessarily know one side or the other, right?
That's very true.
Yeah.
And there are cases where some are okay with it, they embrace it, and there are some who are ashamed, and they won't acknowledge it. And it's, you can look at them and you can tell. I mean, it's obvious that they're mixed, but because of the way that they're raised, it's not been talked about.
So, and the point that was made was really a very interesting sociological study, is that they were military, let's talk, for example, military men who came in,
For the most
got
part.
with a Chamorro girl, and she became pregnant, and then he left the island, and
Yes.
they never raised a child together. So maybe there would have been a little animosity.
Yeah,
So
in
the
some
child,
cases that has been the truth.
okay,
Yes.
and so the child grew up really hating his father without ever really knowing him.
Or the culture.
Or the culture. So that's the part of it that I really wanted to concentrate on, and whether or not you have spoken to some of these kids and what is their attitude? What is their
Well, some are very surprised. When I was at UOG, I got a chance to make some presentations on Black History Month, or as a teaching assistant, I got to share some things and about the culture and about the history. And they were really very surprised to find out the contributions Blacks have made, to American history and as well to Guam. And they found it very empowering. I have a collection of stamps of Black contributors to
Yeah.
U.S. history. I mean, actually 2 volumes of it.
Yeah.
Famous people, Rosa Parks, Dr. King, and they would thumb through the books, all the resources that I had, and you could see it in their faces. Wow, they look like me. And
yeah,
and,
and surprised at like inventions. If you just went through the list of inventions,
right.
you'd be
Things
surprised.
that they didn't know.
Yeah.
And then some would see me out in town, and they would slip away from their families and ask me questions, about Black history. So there's a curiosity there. There's a need to really want to know amongst a lot of them, and I think we do a disservice to not share that part of American history with them, because when you know yourself and you know your history and you know your culture, you can embrace yourself and learn to love yourself.
That's really interesting because there are some young adults that I know who have Black fathers and Chamorro mothers, raised in the Chamorro culture with contact with their Black father, but never having even met the Black father's other side.
Exactly.
So they got a grandmother, they got aunties and uncles, they got people who are just that look like them, but they've never experienced what it was to live in a daily life. And so now as young adults, they're very secure in their identity as Chamorros.
Right.
But you talk in your thesis about a Black Renaissance. And with so much of the media concentrating on Black Lives Matter and the tumultuous relationship that Black America still has in the U.S., they're curious about that part. Some of the social aspects of it. It's like, dude, I'm Black too. I'm like him. I'm like her.
Right.
I have an aunt like that. I have a grandmother like that. And these are people I see, and I could never have related. So I know a family. I had taken some photos and videotape of their family members,
Right.
and brought it home and had them watch this video of these family members in action, and they were floored. They were floored at seeing people's faces, their cousins who looked just like them, and the curiosity was so much. And it was so forceful that it led them to really, try to foster a relationship, reach out to them, and to realize that the grandmother's on the phone going, "Boy, I love you.
Right.
You're family to me." And they're like, "I
I don't know you.
don't know you."
Right.
but you're on the other side of the world and you love me like one of your own. And oh, by the way, I am one of your own. So that was kind of that. Watching that happen was really very
Moving, huh?
Yeah, it was really moving. That's the best way to put it. It was very moving. There, in Guam, we we had this conversation before, and so I know a lot about what she wrote about because I was reading much of the thesis. But we also talked a little bit about. And this is really weird that you use the word Hidden Figures because the movie is out.
Right.
And the accomplishments of these three women.
So timely, huh?
So incredibly timely. And then I asked you about, well, if there's 1%, where are they all?
Right.
And you said they're hidden figures in our community.
Right.
So tell me about that.
Well, Calvin Holloway and
Yeah.
we had a really good discussion, and he's the one that really opened my eyes to this because he's been here much longer than I've been here, and he said that he once did, I guess, like a mini census of all the African Americans that he knew, and he said that we are in every industry in the island in some way or another. You know, I mean seriously. You know, in banking and in law,
Medicine.
you know, education.
Yeah.
And so he says, but we're kind of hidden basically, and so
Yeah.
basically he is putting together a dinner at the end of the month. I forgot to mention it yesterday.
Okay.
And for us to get together as a group and just kind of network and share, you know. But when he told me that, I was like, really? I said, I need to know these people because the people that I know are mostly military affiliated because, you know,
Yeah.
of my affiliation with the military. And there are people, like you said, who've been here 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
you know. And I said, I want to get to know them. I want to you know, to network with them. And so I'm looking forward to that meeting. But he's the one who opened up my eyes to just the, I guess, how widespread we are as far as occupations here on the island.
Well, again, it's Black History Month, and we are observing it, and Carla would know exactly how we're observing it. When we come back, after we eat a little of this, we're going to talk about how to observe it. And then I've got some other questions for you as well. We are Something to Talk About, and we are at Ruby Tuesday. Come on back. Well, welcome back. Here with Carla Smith, Black History Month, Black Lives Matter. That's a movement that has really, I mean, I have not seen such an effort across America the way it has gained this much attention. Is there a stark sort of similarity to the civil rights movement that you can, maybe there's a relation you can, is it a modern day version, would you say, or is it, well, how would you, because people say that. It's like, you know, people say that Black Lives Matter is like a takeoff of the civil rights movement,
it
but
is.
at a very small, much smaller scale. Right?
Yeah, it is. It's amazing because African Americans have always been a people who like slogans, you know, and the slogans that we bring about are we use to address certain issues, social issues in our community. For example, in the 60s, it was Black is Beautiful because, you know, we have been told that our skin wasn't beautiful, our features weren't beautiful, that we weren't intelligent, and we had to learn to embrace our cultural identity. So we came up with that slogan, of Black Power, which meant economic and social, you know, political power, basically. And it addressed those issues that were going on in the Black community. And today, the slogan is Black Lives Matter. You know, and it's an affirmation, it's a rallying cry, and it really it's like a continuation of the civil rights movement, but in maybe a different. In some ways, it's the same.
Yeah.
You know, because we're talking about police brutality.
We're talking about people's civil rights,
you
right?
know, and we have the issues now with police brutality and racial inequity, and so I think the social media and all and television and all the other things have kind of brought it about. It's always happened.
Yeah.
But nowadays, with the things that are happening with technology, it's more.
It's in your face.
Exactly.
I mean, and you can't help but escape it.
Right.
I wonder, though, because the generation of people that we're talking about who've settled on Guam, that maybe you've talked to, a lot of the I don't mean to call Calvin Holloway an old timer, but you know, him and Roy Burke, they go back away. I'm just calling them all. I'm gonna call them all out right now. But these guys came in with the military, and they look at a situation like this, and you make the point about identifying Guam as a black man's paradise. It's relatable yet unrelatable to that generation of men, because they're not living in these urban areas. They're not living where racism is in their face when they come out the front door or in their jobs. They're living quite comfortably on
Yes.
Guam, right?
Yes. So when I wrote the thesis, I was thinking of Black Lives Matter as far as the states. It's
Yeah.
about police brutality. But here in Guam, one of the reasons I wrote the thesis is because we're basically, like I said, hidden.
Yeah.
And basically,
Removed in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Guam history, we're not really talked about. In American history, we're not talked about as often as we should, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that's where the phrase Black Lives Matter comes here in Guam, because it addresses the absence or the minimal presence of blacks in Guam history,
Yeah.
basically.
So, there's so many things I wanted to ask you. Okay, there's also a situation where I have seen in situations on Guam, one male in particular, half black, half white. And he's been living on Guam, married a local girl, and was predominantly raised by a white woman. So it is a real difference to him, because he identifies as being a black man, but he's also viewed as maybe somebody he thinks he's Puerto Rican. So the distinguishing qualities, characteristics, facial characteristics, are not necessarily there, because
Okay.
he basically pulled heavy on the white side.
Okay.
And he wants to be recognized as a black man. So it's a struggle for him, not only just an internal struggle, but with other black men.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how you address something like that, but the same could be for women, don't you think?
Yes. I think that.
Well, they don't feel black enough. I think that was the word.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he doesn't feel black enough.
So what does that mean?
So
Because it could mean something different for different people.
Well, in his interpersonal relationships with other black men,
Okay.
he doesn't feel black enough.
And so specifically how?
So it makes him socially separated from maybe the good old boy talk around the table kind
right.
of thing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That he just doesn't. He feels that maybe that's just him.
Yeah.
It's an exclusion that he maybe self-imposed. Because I can't see that these other mature men are going to sit around the table and like little girls at a school lunch table or little boys at a school lunch table and put somebody down because they're not black enough.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
I don't know how you would address that either. It was a psychological moment I was having at the time.
Okay.
I didn't know what to say to him. I didn't know how.
Is it because he was raised differently from maybe the other black
Probably.
men? I mean,
I think that's really what it
depends on
is.
the circumstances.
And that's a really good point. Being raised differently in a privileged white home, as opposed to some of these men rising from some urban blight, right?
Some of them, yes. So that could be part of it.
Yeah, that could be. And we also talked about just how hard it is for men like that to break away from the cycle that they've broken away from, to find a better life. I know somebody whose family actually resents that he pulled himself out of the inner city to, join the military and make a life for himself. And at 50-some years old, he still gets it from his sisters. You left us.
Yeah.
You left mama without daddy.
Yeah.
And you're the oldest boy.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
And I've seen it even here in the Chamorro culture when people leave
Exactly.
to go off island. They call it the brain drain. We studied about that in school.
Yeah.
Some of the people leaving and not coming back.
Yeah.
So I think it's human nature for people who are left behind sometimes to.
To feel like they've been abandoned?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So during Black History Month, you said that it's obviously a federal government observed occasion. So there's funding for it, there's recognition for it, there's time dedicated to it.
Yes.
And it's just one of many throughout the year,
Yes.
right?
9 observances throughout the year. Yeah. Maybe
So-
now 10. I think they started the LGBTQT, I think, in June.
They keep adding consonants to that. LBGQ. Okay. And sometimes Y. But no, how do we observe it on Guam, and how does the community become engaged in the celebration of the occasion?
Well, I know of a few things. For example, the National Park Service is actually going to give a presentation on the 18th. I'm involved with that with Park Ranger Alan Ziegler. Putting a plug out there for y'all. And so it's at the Visitor Center down by Big Navy, the Newman Visitor Center, and it's going to be about African Americans' participation in, I guess, the liberation of Guam and the surrounding areas. And I'm going to talk about some Guam history, some things that happened here on the island, you know. And so we have that going on. I told you about the luncheon that we're having on the 25th with Calvin Holloway. And I know on the basis, we had the Black History Month program on the 3rd of February up at Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're from Louisiana.
Yes, just outside New Orleans.
Just outside New Orleans. Your
Correct.
mom can watch this, by the way, if you want to say hi to your
Hi, Mama. I miss you.
Are you planning to make Guam your home? Is this?
I've learned never to say never. I love it here. I don't want to leave, but you know,
you never know what's
You never
gonna
know. My mom's 81, and
Yeah.
so you never know. I might have to pick up and leave.
Yeah.
You know,
But you like it, though.
I do like it, yeah.
You're settling down here.
Yeah.
Does it feel safe to you?
compared to the States?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it feels safer for me as a woman, as an African American. You know, I don't have to. When I leave here, I don't have to worry about getting in my car and being stopped, by, you know, at the traffic stop, or whether or not I'm going to make it, you know, to the next day. Or, you know,
And you know, for anybody to try to relate to that lifestyle,
yeah.
I mean, nobody can. Not a lot of people can.
But it's a reality for a lot of blacks in the mainland.
And a
every
lot of
day.
black men, and a lot of black men being
Especially black
sinner.
men.
Yeah.
Especially, and there's a long history behind that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, the conversation is really something that needs to be had, you know, all over Guam at some point. I don't know what venues that might be planned for somebody to try to pick your brain, because you really do have something in this story of Guam, and I find such great interest in it. You've already had some conversations in the school.
Yes.
You visited
Yes, I
Simon
have.
Sanchez High School.
Yesterday, we
Well,
had
Jim Healy's class. I mean,
Yeah.
Jim Healy knows a lot about Black history.
I learn something from him all the time.
Don't you?
I love talking to him.
Yeah.
And his class is just it's just wallpaper with all kind of history.
Yeah, and this is his favorite time, because he can make a point. He
Yes.
makes a point, and he drives that point
Yes,
hard to
and
these.
he's very
these
passionate,
kids.
too.
He really is. Well, I look forward to having more conversations with
Sure.
you. How could people get a hold of you if they want to talk? I told her you have to bind this thesis and have it published or copyrighted or something. How can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Oh, they can get in touch with me via email.
Okay.
Carla, CARLA .Smith, 4 @gmail.com.
Okay. Well, it is so nice to have you. Thanks
Thank
a lot.
you.
I appreciate
I
your
enjoyed
time.
it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. We'll do it again. Let's
Yeah.
do it often.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere as far as I know.
She's not going anywhere for a while if we have anything to do with it. Listen, thank you for joining us on Something to Talk About. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you on the radio next time. Bye-bye.